Hey guys, here we go into a video on Errol Spence's training habits, and I'm going to do a little bit of narration, but I want you to pay attention to Errol Spence's weight as he moves back, forward, and gets on the line, and those are all the timings that he likes to make his attacks. Now, this is the key to his pressure, right? Every time he gets to the front foot, he has the ability to make an attack there, okay? Now, this is because in his training habits, he always practices this, and it gives him the opportunity to always get into position to throw his punches because of where he practices throwing them from. Now, we already talked about how this translates into his pressure, but I want to talk about a few other things first, okay? Number one, we're going to be talking about the idea of turning your punches over, okay? And I want you to see how his glove is here, and his knuckles are basically flat, right? They're basically going this way, right? But they're not, okay? Number one, they're going this way. In a properly turned over punch, the pinky knuckle would be over here, the ring knuckle would be over here, and the fist would be turned this way. Not with the ring here, the index finger here, the thumb here, and the pinky here. This is going to be a pushed punch, okay? There's no snap in this punch, there's no real power in this punch, and Errol Spence throws a lot of punches like this. Now, we're going to take a look at why, but I want you to pay attention to that technique again. At no point does he turn this punch over, okay? And that's going to be a very, very, very important idea when we start talking about some other things. But other things that are responsible for turning your punches over, head movement, okay? And I want you to see this punch here that he throws, no head movement. His head is stuck on the line, even though he's controlling him here with that shot. No head movement there, okay? Pay attention to the timing of this punch. He just gets on the line, straight right hand, boom, and he lands it perfectly. How does a guy Errol Spence's size, walking into a big pendulum right hand like this, not hurt someone like Mikey Garcia? Boom, right? And then he's going to land the exact same punch again, right? I think maybe he blocked that one. But as we notice, he gets on the line, and he's able to throw these punches off, but he doesn't turn these punches over. Now, again, turning your punches over helps you create head movement, helps you get your head off the line. It does all kinds of things, including adding power to your punches. So we're going to take a look at some flaws in some of his training camp. Now, first, we are going to take a look at some sparring or some shadow boxing from his Mikey Garcia camp. Now, this is just some regular shadow boxing. And I want you to pay attention to exactly that rhythm, getting on the front foot. Now, this is more head movement already than I've already ever seen in any Errol Spence fight. So we're going to pay attention to that really quickly. When he gets to the front foot, his way to the front foot, is he in position one? Has he crossed the line? I want you to pay attention to his arms and his shoulders and his hand position, okay? Where his head is, how there's a hole here. He's getting to the front foot, but he's not crossing the line. He's not getting his head across what his opponent's line would be, okay? Then when he comes back to the back foot, see how he's here? Heel, knee, head. Where's his head here, okay? He's not all the way in position one. He's slipping to the back foot. His weight is moving to the back foot, but his head is here. Now, again, I want you to pay attention to his hand position and his shoulders. How, even though he's on the back foot, his hands are in the exact same place, okay? Now, one of the rules for Fouts boxing is when you cross the line, you transition your weight, the third thing is changing positions. And you're going to do this every time you cross the line. Every time that you make an attack against your opponent, you're going to have to change positions. And this entails not only transferring your weight, right? Making a proper weight transition, bringing your shoulder with you, and getting your head into the correct place, in the correct position, okay? But I want you to pay attention to the fact that Errol Spence doesn't do that, okay? For the most part, no matter what position he's in, his hands and his head are always in the same spot, okay? His shoulder plane is the same. Everything that he does until he gets onto the line is exactly the same, okay? Very little head movement. Now let's take a look at this straight left hand here that he just threw. Did he turn that punch over? Okay. Is he getting any snap into this punch? No, he's not. That punch is straight, okay? That punch is straight like this, okay? He didn't turn it over at all. He's not really getting his power into it. Look how his head is still even on the left side of his body. He didn't even cross the line. He didn't even get his head over to his knee. I know it looks like he did, but he didn't. His head is right in the middle of his line. And again, now we're going to take a look at some of his heavy bag work, just a little bit, for the Peterson fight, okay? Now, not bad heavy bag work, okay? But again, I want you to pay attention to his hands, his positioning of his shoulders, and how he doesn't, when he's moving around and transferring his weight, he doesn't change positions, okay? This is very, very, very important because it means his head is always going to be on the line, and there's almost always going to be an opening there for it, okay? Now, for those of you that are new to boxing, you may not understand that or why that's important and all this stuff. Again, let's take a look at this punch here. Did he turn this punch over? No. Did he get his head off the line? No. Did he cross the line, transition his weight, and change positions? No. He just moved straight into this punch, right into it. And, again, his hand's always in the same spot, okay? When you get to the front foot, this shoulder is supposed to be much farther and closer to the line. And then when you're on the back foot, this shoulder is supposed to be closer to the line. Let's take a look at real quick what I'm talking about. No, whoops, that's the wrong thing. Real quick what I'm talking about in the Mikey Garcia fight, because there's going to be some clips here too that we're going to be able to use to kind of talk about that. Not turning that punch over. Boom, boom. Look at him throw this hook here, right, from position 1. How does he land a punch like this on Mikey Garcia and not hurt him? Because he doesn't actually have a lot of good snap in his punches. Again, still not even really turning this hook all the way over. And look at where his head is. It's still on his front line, right? It's still in the front foot position. He hasn't been able to get his weight to the back foot. But I want to point out here that his shoulder position is much, much, much better here, right? See how he threw the right hand? Look at how far back his shoulder is. He's supposed to technically be on the back foot after throwing this shot, which brings his shoulder forward, okay? Now, when he throws his straight left hand, and he will eventually, here he is, slipping to the back foot. Boop, boop. Here he is. When he's on the back foot, look at where his shoulder is, right? But notice in his shadow boxing, he doesn't train this way, right? We don't see him in that position, okay? Very, very important idea. Actually, let's go back a little bit farther. No. Is it 8? Shut up, Mikey. You didn't win that round. Oh, man. No head movement. Tap, 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 tap. No power in any of those punches. Okay? Okay, here it is. Here's the clip. Look at his defense here when he's getting pushed back. Okay, number 1, he shoots these punches. His head's stuck on the line, and he gets immediately countered. Boom. Right into that right hand by Mikey. Now, I want you to look at his shoulder position, okay? As he's moving away, look at how this shoulder is still trying to drag itself to the line. Look at how this shoulder, even though he's on the back foot, his weight, his shoulder is not coming forward. He's not in a position to block with his left hand, okay? But look at this awkward position that he's in. When he's on the back foot, again, he's not closing the line off with his left shoulder, but his weight is on the back foot, and there's still a hole for him to be hit, okay? Again, very, very, very poor position too, and very poor defense here, right? Not slipping, not rolling, and again, when we see his shadow boxing, we see that he doesn't slip. We see that he doesn't roll punches. We see he doesn't actually have any head movement, okay? And he winds up in a lot of positions when he's on defense like this, and these positions are really bad for him, right? Not great defense there. I mean, I know he doesn't get hit, right? But not great slipping, ducking below the waist, and look at the position of his hands, okay? He's not able to slip and transition his weight and change positions. Now, we're going to take a look at the shadow boxing drill and technique and style that's responsible for this, okay? This is a tool that Errol Spence is using here in his shadow boxing. And this tool here, I used to use it too. So trust me when I tell you guys that this is a very, very, very flawed tool to use. Number 1, it doesn't allow you to always get extension on your punches, okay? If we take a look at when he's throwing his punches, did that look extended? No. Did he turn that punch over? No. No turnover on that punch, no power. And when he throws this jab, his head is stuck on the line. And this is because he not only is he still bringing his weight to the front, to the line with that step, right? Trying to walk into pendulum. But then he's blasting forward with his jab here, but he's not turning it over. And he's not allowing his weight to transfer back to his back foot, which would naturally happen if he threw his right cross, right? Or his right jab, okay? But there's no weight transition. There's nothing. Because he has to put all of his effort into pushing forward with this punch, okay? Now, this is like a push-up, okay? Very similar motion. So he's not actually punching here because there's no snap, okay? Now we're going to take a look at some other punches that he throws. And when he throws a straight left hand, I'm going to pause it again to show you the lack of turning it over. Here. Straight punch. Everyone probably thinks it looks great. It's awesome. It's not all the way turned over. He doesn't transition his weight. He's not really changing superpositions, right? His left shoulder is not coming all the way back, which is fine. But I want to point out the idea that he is throwing this punch hard, so his shoulder is supposed to come back. But because he has these bands, he has to hold his hand here, okay? Close forward, and that's going to keep his shoulder forward too, okay? So look at the position that he has to walk around in because these things are flexing on his technique, okay? This is the same position he moves around and keeps his shoulder plane in when he's in defense, right? Look at him rocking back to the back foot here, right? Boom, boom. See this position on the back foot? He has to hold this, okay? He can't even bring this shoulder away. He can't bring this shoulder more forward. He still has the same hole. And again, so many of the aspects of his punching, right? Remember we saw him using that straight left hand against Mikey Garcia? Remember how it looked exactly the same here? And then he throws it and he's not getting his head off the line. He's not turning the punch over. Not only does he land this punch against Errol Spence, or against Mikey Garcia, but when he doesn't land it, he gets countered and hurt. Okay? And we can see how this tool here is responsible for some of the poor mechanics involved in those punches, especially those most dangerous punches from him. Now, look at how he cannot move his head here, okay? For the most part, he can basically only throw straight punches. I know he does throw a couple of hooks here, right? But when he throws this hook, is there any weight transition to the back foot? None, right? None. All of the momentum is driving forward, right? And again, back, front, back, front, back, front, back, front, right? Setting up those same punches. But look at him get into the position, right? Did he turn that punch over? No. Did he turn this punch over? No. This punch? No. Did he move his head? No. And all these things are continuous factors in his training and in what he does, right? Even though his shadow boxing, his heavy bag work, and his pad work all look exactly the same, and they should, because that's who he is as a fighter, right? We're going to train the same way on all of our equipment. But we can clearly see that this tool here specifically is causing him problems in his technique because he cannot turn his punches over. Because he has that resistance, he doesn't have a way to bring his shoulder back or to bring this shoulder back because they're always in tension here with this cord here, with keeping his weight on the line here or keeping his weight on the line here. So, again, if you've used these tools, you probably know some of the limitations of them. Again, they don't always allow you to turn your punches over super well. It's really, really difficult to get a good turnover because, well, also the thing is like constantly rubbing on you and, if it's sliding or whatever, it's actually just not a great tool to be used in this manner. Even though I admit, when I first started boxing, I used this tool for many, many, many years. And eventually when I realized that it was inhibiting me from having good shadow boxing. And again, look at him not turning these punches over, right? That one's not as bad. That one's a little bit better. But he's not getting full extension on these punches either. Again, which is also going to increase, or which is also going to minimize the amount of snap he has on the end of his punches. And again, which is why instead of knocking Mikey Garcia out with his straight left hands here, boom, right? Instead of knocking him out, I thought I was going to get the one where he hits him, but he gets countered, right? But you can see that the technique is nearly the same on those techniques, on those punches, and he's not really getting his weight into it. You can see even here, he's not getting full extension on his punch here, right? Which means he has all of this bend in his elbow is room for him to throw snap and turn his punch over and get power. And we can clearly see that his power is just not there. So, in spite of the fact that he has such crazy pressure, right, the actual technical power from Errol Spence is very lacking. And if he's not allowed to be stepping into his punches, as he's going to take that step with his left hand and then his right leg, or his right leg and his right hand, so he can throw that punch. If he's not allowed to step into his punch, his technique's not actually good enough to hurt anybody. And that's why he has such a difficult time knocking people out like Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, and fighters who come forward, and I don't want to say are easy to hit, because Sean Porter is not easy to hit clean. But even though when he can hit him clean, right, it takes him 11 rounds or whatever, but he still can't knock him out. Again, no snap, no real power. And a lot of it stems from his technique when he's striking without pendulum or whatever. But I attribute it, actually, a lot of it to this tool that he uses here on his back, the rubber band. Again, I use one myself. It's not a great boxing tool. It's more like doing push-ups than it is getting snap, because it doesn't allow you to rotate your body. It doesn't allow you to change head positions. It doesn't allow you to, again, move your head, right? Tap, tap, tap. But it does still allow him to stay in pendulum. It does still allow him to rock into his punches. And again, look at the defense when he moves to the back foot. See how his head, there's still the hole. His hand positions don't change. His glove doesn't change. This hand doesn't change. Even though he rocks back, this glove doesn't come up anymore. He's not getting into a position to guard the line. And this is open, right? And again, it's because he has to hold his hands in these interesting places to make sure that the rope here is going to be balanced. It's not going to roll up his back. It's not going to roll down his back. And this is also going to create a perfunctory way to throw his punches. And again, perfunctory means predetermined, right? Which means that when he throws those punches and misses, right, those perfunctory punches, he's going to be getting countered, right? He's not going to be able to do something like throw that punch, miss, and then control his opponent after. Because, again, when he throws that punch, those ropes and those things immediately bring his hands back to his face, right? They're immediately coming back, and that's not what you do in boxing. That's not how you fight. You don't just bring your hands right back to your face. When you throw a straight left hand here, you just did something very dangerous. You went from your back foot to your front foot, and now you have to go from your front foot to your back foot before your opponent can make a counterattack. And that is very difficult. But that tool that Errol Spence uses, again, it augments his rhythm, it augments his timing, it augments his ability to turn his punches over, and it forces him into a pattern, right? Where all his punches look like this, right? In, out, or out, in. Out, in, right? Again, let's take a look at some of this shadow boxing too, see if any of it changes. No head movement again. His head is in the same spot for every one of those punches. Ronda Rousey. Anyway, again, look at these punches. Not turning them over. Boom. Look at how he's not able to bring his shoulder back, right? To really get this punch out, to really turn this punch over. He's not able to get this shoulder all the way to the line, right? His knee is all the way over here, right? He's really not getting all his weight into this punch. And again, Errol Spence is a huge welterweight. Huge. How is it that someone like Keith Thurman has more knockouts than someone so much bigger than him, right? So much more percentage of a knockout. I think Keith Thurman does anyway. I don't remember. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys need personalized boxing coaching, check out my Patreon or check out my Vimeo series if you're looking to learn boxing or whatever. Yeah, that's what's up.